Catherine Lucy Bridget Burke.
I may have to call you Lucy from now on. I'm working with Lucy Burke. Are we up and running? Jolly good. I know you've got two brothers.
Yeah.
Are you in the middle?
No, I'm the youngest.
Oh, OK. And were you funny when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think I was funny, but just in that way that people wanted to be my mate because I was funny.
Did you show off to your brothers? Did you want to make them laugh?
I really wanted to make them laugh. I remember, actually, the first time I made my brothers laugh, and it was John Noakes was doing Blue Peter, and he'd gone to Brazil, and that big statue of Jesus, and he was talking about Jesus and the man that made the statue, and at the end, I said the punchline was, and he got his Blue Peter badge. And I just remember both my brothers laughing their heads off, and it was the very first time I'd made them laugh.
Did they make you laugh?
We were massive Morecambe and Wise fans, anyone of our generation, do you know what I mean? And my brother John had glasses, so he was very good at doing the old Eric Morecambe glasses gag. And, yeah, he was... I remember John being sort of funnier than Barry. Barry was quite serious, but John would do his Eric Morecambe impressions, and... So we'd watch Morecambe and Wise, and Saturdays we'd listen to Kenny Everett on the radio, Saturday afternoons. So, and also things like Round the Horn. So we were very sort of... John was, because he was the eldest, he was in control of what comedy we watched and listened to. So it's all down to him, really.
And what about your dad?
I don't remember him being funny, no.
Was he ever the audience, then, for you guys?
Yeah, I remember... I mean, I would make my dad laugh unintentionally, because I used to like... Petula Clark had a programme on Saturday nights, and I used to love dancing to Petula Clark. And this used to make my dad laugh quite a lot. But I wasn't intending to make him laugh. I was trying to, you know, be a serious dancer, part of the first generation, second generation, whatever they were called. So,
I think I did exactly that same thing, actually.
Yeah, just...
Did you do impressions?
Yeah. Well, I used to do impressions of my dad. So I couldn't really do that to Dad. But the other time I really made my brothers laugh was when my dad came home, very worse for wear with the booze one night, and he fell asleep on the chair. And I remember slicking his hair on the side and getting a bit of coal from the fire and putting a little tash, and I started goose-stepping around him. And the boys thought that was highly amusing. So we had sort of half-dead Hitler in the chair, and I was probably about 6 at the time or something, but... Anything to get a giggle, really.
So cheap laugh, really.
Really cheap.
Yeah, and on it goes.
Yeah.
I'm still making a career out of that. What about school, then?
I used to look about with my friend Diane. Diane used to put me in a pram, scoop all my hair really tight into a very, very tight bobble hat with a little dolly, and wheel me up and down the Essex Road and tell everyone I was her baby because I've got an extremely high forehead and no eyebrows. And this used to entertain Diane for hours. I didn't find it that thrilling, but she used to get great fun out of it, so...
Would you allow me to do that now? I would like... Would you, in the next few months, allow me to...
Yeah, the big old-fashioned...
Yeah. I would like to do that. When our play's open,
yeah.
We've got some time during the day.
Definitely.
All right. Did you have a gang?
Yeah, there was a bit of a gang, yeah. And I was like the funny one in the gang. Like the more of the clown. I would run around and fall over and, you know, do anything to get a laugh so that I wouldn't be poked or hit. So, because when you're the clown in a gang, you're also the one that if the gang get a bit bored with picking on people outside the gang, you're the one that gets picked on. So I had to put up with a little bit of that.
Did you buy mates then by making people laugh, do you think?
I remember giving away toys to try and say, it was something like I would give them away and saying, then I'm going to do a show. You know, and then so I'd give all my toys away, line up doing a show in like one of the blocks in our flats, and like one kid and a dog would turn up. Do you know what I mean? And the show was basically just nicking stuff from Morecambe and Wise or Kenny Everett, and you know, just doing that really.
So you're performing then?
Yeah, and at primary school as well. Very pre the royal family actually, because I invented a family called the Happy Family, which was just a family that argued all the time. And we got into a little routine of doing a show in the playground every lunchtime. And this sort of got bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually we had the whole school circled round us.
And lots of power with that, do you think?
Lots of power for half an hour. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause it was only during the lunch break, you know, that was when I had my power, was when I was writing a new version of The Happy Family. And,
Yeah, but presumably people are thinking, oh, Kath, she's that great girl who does those plays at lunchtime. Don't you think it brought you a bit of status then?
I suppose it might have done, yeah. I didn't really think about it. I was just so sort of happy doing it. And Diane was always involved, and, I mean, I was the lead. I gave myself, you know, I think I was mum and dad, and then everyone else was the kids, or...
So greedy? Quite greedy?
Yeah, of course.
Cast yourself up.
Absolutely.
Most lines.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed there then. What about the teachers then? Did they encourage you to be funny, or was it kind of slapped down?
Yeah, no, I was one of those kids that was always told to shut up, always sent... In primary school, you were sent in the corner. They don't do that anymore, I don't think, but told to stand in the corner for an hour. I used to love farting, you see. So I'd fart a lot and would be able to time farting quite well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd sort of store it up and then let rip at a really good moment.
During lessons?
During lessons, during maths. I mean, any opportunity I could get, I was constantly farting. There was one teacher at secondary school that encouraged me, and that was a guy called Mr. Paul. And he was an English teacher. He was only there for a couple of years. And he did English with us, obviously, because he was an English teacher. And he decided to do some improvisation work with us. There was never any drama lessons at my secondary school. And for some reason, I don't know how it happened, but then the lesson always ended with me and Mr. Paul doing a sketch together, which used to entertain the rest of the girls. And I'd always be some sort of highly frustrated secretary. I'd never sort of, right from a young age, I would never be sort of sexy or anything like that. I'd be some desperate old bag, you know. I think that was very much Dick Emery influenced. Do you know what I mean? Because I used to love his frustrated women. Oh, come here. You know, those sort of people. So it used to amuse the rest of the girls.
And did you seek the approval of Mr. Paul then? Yeah,
and also then because he told me about Anna Shares, because I never knew about it, which was ridiculous because I lived in Islington and it was up the road. And I remember seeing kids that I knew on the telly and sort of not really understanding how they got there. And it was because of the Anna Share Theatre. So it was Mr. Paul that said to me, you should put your name down for this place. And a couple of other girls in the class were like, oh, I go there. Yeah, I'll put your name down. And then I eventually got in there when I was 16 because it was quite a long waiting list to get in.
I mean, were you encouraged to be funny at Anna Share? Was it okay to be funny?
Yeah, it was okay to be funny, yeah, because it was just all about improvisation and stuff. So it's quite scary, you know, and you have to get up and do these things on your own when you imagine there's another person. And I remember the first time I got up, instead of just shouting at this other person, which a lot of the kids were doing, so they get up and shout, 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 I just got up and listened to this imaginary person and then said about one or two things, was like, oh, all right then. OK. And then sat back down and got a huge cheer. And then that was it. And then Anna was getting me up on my feet all the time. So, but it was because I was scared.
Did you know what you were doing then? Did you know that you were being a bit clever?
No, I knew I could see the other person. Do you know what I mean? I knew I was definitely the other person who we didn't see. There was a conversation going on. So no, I didn't realise that it was a very, very smart thing to do. But the reaction at the end, I realised, oh, right, OK. So that's what's acting about. It's about listening. It's not about shouting. It's about listening.
Presumably then you knew that there was a career you could possibly go into now.
Yeah. What I got from Anna's was not so much the comedy, it was that I enjoyed acting. Do you know what I mean? And I enjoyed playing lots of different roles. And it was the money. I mean, the money was, like, bloody amazing, really, when you're 17, 18, and you just get a couple of little bits in films or whatever. It was like, you know, I was working in a bakery. So it was sort of, this is extraordinary. And what I really wanted to do was be a music journalist. So that was sort of, you know, that was my dream, that was my ambition, was just be someone who got paid to go to gigs. So then suddenly when I was an actor and I had an equity card, it was like, well, all right, I'm getting money from my work, so I better go and start going to the theatre and paying to go to the theatre. And so suddenly my interest changed. I mean, I still went to gigs and stuff, but music used to be my life. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't going to gigs anymore and I was going to see plays, so...
You never did stand-up, did you?
No. I was too nervous. I just couldn't do it. I remember going down to the Comedy Store and stuff in the when you lot were there and everything, and Rick Mail and all that mob, and I just found it so terrifying.
What I want to know is where you got kind of hijacked into comedy, because it's obvious that you're a good straight actress. So I can't understand how you've managed to have both of these careers side by side so successfully.
It was Simon Brint and Roland Riveron, because Simon would come and see me do theatre. And it was them two, really, because they'd been doing Raw Sex with you and Jen, and then they sort of become their own thing, and then they were doing various gigs, and then they got asked to do Edinburgh, like do 4 weeks at Edinburgh. And I did Edinburgh, and, you know, and I sort of went down all right. A lot of people didn't like me because they liked the boys on their own, and Time Out put me in brackets, Kathy Burke, not funny, in brackets. Yeah,
no.
Not funny. Yeah, and I remember going on stage that night and Caroline Quentin was in the audience. The minute I walked on, she went, "You're not funny." And I went, "Neither are you." So it was all a bit scary, but great fun.
And do you think was that the beginning then of you doing characters?
Yeah, I think so. Well, just because then Paul Whitehouse clocked all that, you see. So then, when I was doing sort of plays and stuff, then Paul Whitehouse would come along and see me. I didn't really know who he was then. Well, he wasn't anybody then anyway. But it was Paul that told Harry Enfield about me.
Did you want to do comedy more, or did you want to do both things?
No, I wanted to do the straight acting, but I wanted to do the comedy because the money was better.
Okay.
Because the money was really good in comedy, TV comedy.
Do you think comedy is a proper job?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because, you know, people need to have a laugh. And I do think it's a proper job. And I went through a long time of feeling very guilty, you know. Oh, God, you know what I mean? All I'm doing is putting on silly hats and strapping my bosoms down. But people need to be entertained and people need to have fun and, you know, and I think our job it's just as important, you know. There's a fickleness to it, really, but I don't see anything wrong with it.
But did you think, you know, well, I haven't got any right to be doing this, my brothers are funnier than me or whatever?
Yeah, I definitely used to think that. Yeah, I definitely go through phases of thinking that, you know, but, you know, you can't, I don't know, really. I suppose you just grow up then and you just think, oh, sod it, you know what I mean? I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing, you know, I'm not very good at anything else. I can do a bit of acting. I can make people laugh sometimes, you know what I mean?
I think my problem with it is that I find it odd to get well paid for doing something you haven't been trained for, if you know what I mean. I don't feel like I've been through the apprenticeship at all. I mean, you have, because you've been doing, like you say, Edinburgh and this and that, and you learn a bit more as you go along. But it feels like something that is naturally part of your family life, something that just happens anyway, and suddenly it's a proper job, and I can't equate that in my head properly.
But some people are naturally brilliantly minded scientifically. And so it's easy for them to go to university and get their degrees and then become a Nobel Prize winner. Do you know what I mean? Because it's naturally in them to be really clever and to do things like help save other people's lives. I mean, that's not what we're doing, but if you make someone laugh before they pop their clogs, then, you know, it's all sort of, you know.
Relative.
Yeah.
I get that, although I'm still not quite sure about it. But do you think you have pressure to be funny in social situations? Do you think people say, oh, it's Kath, she's going to give us a big, here she comes? And do you get that? I get
sometimes, yeah. I should imagine you'd get it a lot more than me, but sometimes.
And you don't feel under any pressure? You don't
I feel
purposely be a grumpy, Larry bitch?
Well, I feel very different now than I did 10 years ago. I mean, 10 years ago, I definitely felt like that. I think when I started to get well known, I just found it all a little bit weird because of that thing, and you'd know this as well, if you've always been sort of naturally funny, it's very weird that then you're expected to be funny. It's like there's just a different thing of it, you know what I mean? And just being funny for the sake of it and just, you know, being a bit witty, it's sort of nice and it's pleasant and it makes people feel good. But if people are expecting you, oh, great, well, if Kathy comes to the party, then I'm going to be all right because she'll just make me laugh all night. It's like, well, no. You know what I mean? Then I'll purposely be miserable. And
do you think that when you were doing a lot of comedy, did it kind of give you a buzz to do it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. In the same way that it all sort of gives you some sort of buzz, you know. But, yeah, I loved... I remember getting a real buzz. Well, it started off working with you and Jennifer. And so the first thing I noticed was sort of the Bananarama thing. And then I remember getting a lot of calls about when we did the piss take of the House of Elliot, which was such fun, you know.
When you had a couple of Chelsea buns stuck to the side of
Do you
your
know
head.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was great.
And that was your mate, wasn't it, playing that part?
Yeah, Kathy Murphy, another Kathy, yeah. And then I really loved it when the slobs happened. Because I loved the slobs. I didn't get the slobs at first. I didn't sort of get it. You know, when we were rehearsing it, I just didn't get the cartooniness of it all until me and Harry were in the costumes. And then it was like, oh, right, and then the penny started to drop, and it was like, right, OK, I think I understand this now. And it took me a couple of sketches to really then cotton on to who I thought Waynetta was. And, but that was just a thrill because it was just people, everybody knew them, you know what I mean? And it was the first time I'd done anything, I think, where the public were just like, we all know a Wayne and Waynetta, do you know what I mean? And that I just really loved.
Do you think people have frozen you as Waynetta a little bit?
Some people, yeah.
Do you mind that?
No, I did for a while. It used to give me the ump, you know what I mean? Because I'm like a very serious actress. You know, well, bollocks. And then, but that was very quickly got rid of with Perry and Kevin, you see. I mean, it's meant to be Kevin and Perry, but this is
not
me.
For you,
so it's Perry and Kevin. And so that was sort of great as well. And it started to bug me a bit when catchphrases were shouted at me, like, I am smoking a fag, and thank you, Mrs. Patterson, and all that. That started to drive me a little bit crazy, but I think I was going through a little bit of a crazy time anyway. And but now I'm sort of really happy with it. Do you know what I mean? And I love it if people still talk about Wayne and Waynetta, you know. So
Why have you stopped doing it then?
there were a couple of reasons, really. I lost a little feeling in my belly that I always used to have when I was acting. And I always had this same feeling in my belly. It's very hard to explain. It sounds very strange. But I'd always have this... There was this thing going on inside. So that whenever I was doing another character, whether it was comedy or serious, this feeling in my belly would happen. So then it was like all the characters came from that feeling in my belly, and then they'd come out, you know. And as long as that feeling was there, then I sort of felt all right, and I sort of felt, oh, I can become anything because it's this thing in my belly that's doing it. And then that thing in my belly started to disappear. It was just really odd. And I did a couple of jobs where it wasn't there. It was really weird, so therefore it was all coming from my head. Is this sounding really strange?
Not at all. I am really relating to it. That's part of the problem.
Right,
yes,
good. So it was just, right, well, if it's not coming from there, then the enjoyment isn't the same because it's all coming from here. And from here, I just sort of found it was all a bit easy. So it was all a bit automatic pilot. And it was all, well, there's no kick from this. And I'm not enjoying it. And I sort of felt, if I'm not enjoying it, that's going to totally come from behind the eyes, and everyone will know I'm not enjoying myself anymore.
So you felt like a fraud?
Abso-fucking-lutely, if you can. Absolutely.
That is what I feel.
Right,
That is what I feel.
If I got that feeling back again, I'd be at it like a shot because I loved it so much. I really loved it. But my very close mate Moya said to me, it's been really the last 7 years or so. She thinks it was since Nil by Mouth, since I did that film with Gary Oldman. She noticed a change in me after then. And I don't know whether it was because doing that film, even though it was a very heavy film and it wasn't comedy, but that job was sort of what I'd always been wanting to do, in a way. That was sort of, when I started acting when I was 17, it was like, I would love to do something that really made an impact and that really upset people and made people think and just showed the truth of something. Everything after then was a bit of a struggle for me to get to, so...
Did you ever feel humiliated doing any of the comedy work that you did?
I mean, I absolutely love doing Gimme, 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 and I loved it, and it's one of my favourite things that I've ever done, really. But it's very odd doing something where a lot of people can't stand it, you know, that just did not take to it. But I can't say I felt humiliated by that. I think I was probably just a bit more confused as to, well, I really thought this was going to grab the nation.
Did you feel like you had to defend it then?
Yeah, I did, actually, and I did defend it a lot. Yeah.
Were you defending the writer, who's your mate? Were you defending the character or what?
No, it was the whole thing. A lot of people just did not like the whole thing. They found it very offensive and that we were going back 20 years and I think there was a real, all this political correctness that happened, I blame your mob for that. The Ben Eltons and all your generation, and because she is a lot older than me. But I think it was great and it had its place, but I also felt it did a lot of harm and that it was all, oh God, is this funny? And
but it's to do with fashion
rude.
as much as anything. Yeah. It wasn't fashionable to have something like that. It would be now, I think. Yeah. Because it'd be sort of retro.
Yeah, exactly.
But see, I've got my picture in my book.
Yeah.
Is of that character.
The lovely Lindy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that character.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it because I just thought it was mad. I thought that was one of the biggest risks you took.
Yeah, I suppose.
Was to do something very big like that because you were definitely going to make some enemies.
Absolutely. I think maybe that's why I did it.
Yeah. Do you think that it's cool and attractive to be funny?
I think so, yeah.
Did you watch stand-ups and think it was a bit
sexy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sort of... Yeah, I mean, it's weird, though, I think, because of being a little girl and being so in love with Eric Morecambe, that I've never met a man that's as funny or as beautiful as him. Do you know what I mean? Like, the impression that you got of him on the telly and stuff. So, yeah. I mean, I do find funny men very, very attractive.
Could you be in a relationship with someone that wasn't funny?
No, I don't think so. No, it's very difficult, isn't it? No. I know that I've always been really turned by people when they do really make me laugh. Do you know what I mean? Then it's like, but then that could be dangerous because they can be the biggest wanker you've ever met in your life, but they're making you laugh and, it is a bit dangerous. I don't know whether it's different for women than for men.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men don't like women to be funny.
Why is that, do you think?
Because they just want us to suck their cocks and... Do you know what I mean? It's like... No.
And not in a funny way.
Get your laughing gear around this.
Because I've tried to do jokes in that particular instance and do blowing instead of sucking, but they can't see the gag in it.
No.
Or just use it as a microphone. I've done that. I've done karaoke.
Yeah.
Anyway, too much detail there. But I think you're right. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager that it's great. I felt really powerful being able to make all my mates laugh, but you didn't get the boy possibly at the end.
Never
of the
got
evening.
the boyfriend. I mean, do you remember when they used to do little charts? Tick for who you... The girls would go around with a list for the boys. Who do you want to kiss the most? Who do you fancy? Who do you love? Who's got the nice personality, the best personality? And I'd always get 9 out of 10 for personality, but I'd never be ticked for wanting to kiss or anything like that.
And so do you think being funny puts them off? Simple as that? That's disappointing.
Yeah,
if that's
I don't
true.
know,
That's really upsetting.
I don't know, but then there are other funny women out there that, that are all right and always got the boys as well. I mean, you did all right.
I did all right,
but
early on I learnt some tricks about don't be too funny.
Right.
And if there's a bloke in the group, just let him have his moment, even though it's not very funny.
I never
what
did
he's
that,
doing.
you see.
I know, I was being a bit of a minx, but I knew that was the way round it, that you would get a snog if you allowed a bloke to tell the biggest, funniest joke of the night or give him a big old laugh when it wasn't that. I know, it was horrible.
Yeah,
I regret that, but I did get a snog up.
No. I'm shaking my head thinking I wish I'd known you then to take that advice. I'm like,
no, but it's not a good thing because it's dishonest.
No, at least you got kissed.
Yeah, but I want to end up with a bloke, and I think I have, luckily, but I want to end up with a bloke who thinks you are the funniest thing, and it's still all right to give you a snog up.
Yeah, that's
and not
true.
feel threatened by it, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women we know are the toppest birds you can think of, but it's that having great brains, and especially great comedy brains, that is really tricky for them when it comes to making a relationship, and I'm really confused by that.
Yeah.
That's
I
not
just
good
thought
to
it was because I was
Preston,
ugly. I didn't really...
It's nothing to do with that. No, it's not. It's to do with power, I think. And I think being funny gives you a bit of power.
Right.
And I think other women find it hard sometimes too, not just men.
Yeah.
Do you like to be in the company of comics? Do you seek that out ever?
I remember when I was doing Edinburgh, thinking at the time, I can't wait to get back to just doing a normal play with normal actors. because what I didn't like was the sort of rivalry. And you sat with a load of comics, you know, I just couldn't say that I liked anybody without being told, oh, yeah, but they nicked half their stuff off me from Edinburgh, you know, 79. And do you know what I mean? And I just sort of thought, oh, God, everyone's so fucking negative all the time. And do you know what I mean? And it's like killing your buzz and bursting your bubble of, you know, it's like you're not really allowed to enjoy anybody, you know.
Who do you think out of this present gang, who makes you laugh the most?
Catherine Tate, I actually quite adore. The Nan character is, to me, the best comic creation I think has been on the telly for years.
I agree.
No disrespect to
No,
Company.
absolutely.
And I love Julia Davis. I think she's pretty incredible.
And she's a writer as well, isn't she? Like Catherine.
And that's great. There's a real surgence now of people writing their own stuff and being allowed to, you know what I mean? I really, really miss Caroline Aherne being on the telly.
Me too.
I really miss it, and I want her back. But Caroline is allowed to live her own life. She brings joy to my heart in the way Eric Morecambe used to.
So what about any women from, you know, days gone by?
From when we were little?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious ones, really. Irene Handel, who I just adored and loved, and anything she was on, I would just make sure I was watching movies. In fact, I remember we were doing an episode of Gimme Gimme once, and I had a very dirty line to say, and I couldn't say it because I kept on imagining Irene Handel saying it and thinking she would have said it so much better than I ever can, that I just kept on giggling because, and nobody understood what I meant, was that, well, it was like, why are you laughing? Why can't you get it together? And it was like, because every time I'm just about to say the line, I imagine Irene Handel saying the line. And her timing and her characterisation, everything was just always brilliant. She never, ever disappointed me. So I loved her. I loved Joyce Grenfell because she was just... I did. I loved her because she was in all the old St. Trinian films and stuff like that. And I loved her sort of poshness and her sort of, you know... She reminds me a little bit, not at all looks, anything like that, but she's a bit like Celia Imrie in that way that everything's very positive. There was always looking at the good side of things, do you know what I mean? And so I absolutely adored her. And I loved Beryl Reid.
Yeah.
I thought Beryl Reid was fantastic, and I loved the fact that every now and again, late night film, you know what I mean, that she'd be in something a little bit dark and a little bit odd, you know, like The Killing of Sister George, and suddenly you'd see her in a bit of a dirty film and it was all a bit odd. Yeah.
One other question. Do people ever thank you for making them laugh?
Yeah.
Do you get embarrassed about that, or are you pleased about that?
I used to get embarrassed, but I've learned to be a bit more gracious and be quite pleased about it, really. I mean, yeah, it's lovely to be thanked, and cab drivers, you know what I mean, thank you for all the fun you've given us over the years, and, like, you're welcome. I'm much more gracious now, rather than, you know, I'm a serious fucking actress and that, you know. Yeah, it's just about, you just say, well, thank you. Thank you for being kind enough to say thank you.
Yeah. And thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you more.
Turning his caustic wit onto TV news. Charlie Brooker's Screen Wipe next here on BBC4.